Hi, I'm Claire Tompkins, the Clutter Coach, and this is the Organize Your Life podcast. I am passionate about organizing because it makes my clients' lives so much easier, makes them more relaxed, and gives them more time to spend the way they want to. In every podcast, I will talk about an organizing, decluttering, productivity, or time management concept, and I'll tell you why it's important. I'll also include an action step at the end so you can start practicing right away. I'm based in Berkeley, California, but I work with clients all over the world. You can find me on the Live Coach website, where I offer coaching via phone or video chat or messaging. Live Coach is running an offer right now where you can get a $50 Amazon gift card if you hire me. To find me there, visit livecoach.io, click Find a Coach, and then enter my name, Claire Tompkins, in the search box. I'd love to chat with you there. If you have questions or would like me to talk about a particular topic, shoot me an email at claire@cluttercoach.net. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, here we go. This is podcast 115, and it's my interview with Gretchen Rubin, author of the brand new book, Outer Order, Inner Calm. The subtitle of the book is Declutter and Organize to Make More Room for Happiness. Doesn't that sound perfect? I'm excited because this is the first time I've done an interview for the podcast, and it turned out great. Gretchen was delightful to talk to. She could definitely have a second career as a professional organizer, that's for sure. You can find her book in my Amazon store. Just click on the shop link on the top menu. Okay, here's the interview. Hi there.
Hey.
Am I in? Yes.
Hey there.
Hi, Gretchen. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
This is so exciting. Congratulations on your new book.
Oh, thank you so much. It's very exciting that it's about to go out into the world after all this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm curious about, can we just kind of plunge right in?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, so how did you collect all these tips? Were you kind of researching on yourself, or did you interview people or research, or?
Both. I read a lot about it. I observed myself, my own pitfalls, my own strategies, my own solutions, things that I noticed about my own attitudes and habits. And then I also, my sister says I'm a kind of a happiness bully. And so I'm constantly forcing myself on my friends and trying to get them to help me, let me help them clear their clutter. And so it's very interesting for me to see how other people engage with things or how they talk about it, or how if I'm trying to help them clear clutter, what do I do that works or doesn't work? So a lot of it, I just tried to grab anything I could that I thought was sort of memorable and helpful. And I also think there's no one right way to do it. I think there's ways that work for a lot of different people. So I wanted to have a whole range, and the idea is like, this is just a smorgasbord. You pick the things that work for you, that strike a chord, and then, the other things, maybe you'll try them another time. Maybe you won't need them. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. I know that often my experience with clients is that they look around and they don't really want to do anything and they feel like it's fine. But then once we declutter, they literally sigh. They go, ah.
No, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of irrational, right? How much of a boost you get, but you feel it. It's real. Yeah.
Yes, because everything has become background noise and they don't realize how it's affecting them. And then once it's gone, suddenly, kaboom. Yeah.
I went over recently to a friend's house, and he had a very big, spacious walk-in, not a walk-in closet, like a coat closet in his front hall. And it was very deep, kind of not deep in a not very useful way. But anyway, he had just jammed so much stuff in there, and we pulled it all out. I mean, it was just coming out and coming out. It's a clown car. And then when we were done, it was like he just couldn't stop looking at the floor. He's like, the floor, just look at the floor. He hadn't seen the floor of it in so long that it just was like, it was beautiful to him just to gaze at that open space, that beautiful emptiness.
Yes, the lack of visual distraction.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Yeah.
And it's like, what is that thing anyway? I'm like, what is this? He's like, I don't know. What is that? It's always, I mean, I'm sure you've seen this a million times. People are like, I've never seen that thing before in my life. You're like, well,
yes. Yeah.
Somebody put it under your bed. So I don't know who did that. Yeah.
But they don't usually stop to ask the question, what is that thing?
Right.
Yeah, that's what my job is when I help people organize.
Yes, it's really to just get them to pause and be mindful about what to keep and what to get rid of. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I definitely agree with you about that. There's no one way to organize and declutter. And I've been doing this for a long time, and some people think, well, why don't you have your proprietary system? And I say,
Yeah.
well, for me to know all of these different systems, I can cherry pick and give somebody something that will work for them.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's so many differences because some people are abundance lovers and some people are simplicity lovers and they want to get to a totally different place. And then some people have really emotional connections to objects. And then some people, it's not so strong. So they have a very different kind of pattern. Some people, like their clutter is backward looking. Some people, their clutter is forward looking. Some people are underbuyers. Some people are overbuyers. There's so many combinations. I know when people are like, well, this is the right way to do it. Or people will say, well, what's the best way? Or should, what's most efficient? What creates creativity? And it's like, well, no one can tell you. You have to figure it out yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing that I've noticed is that people will balk at doing something that they think will take a long time, especially if they don't want to do it. They'll assume that it takes longer than it really does. This is kind of a psychological thing. And I noticed that with myself. I have to admit, sometimes I didn't want to unload my dishwasher. I was like, that's going to take like 10 or 15 minutes. So I timed it. It took me less than 4 minutes. And I was like, okay, there's no reason for you to put this off now.
Yeah. No, timing yourself is a great thing because people are often astonished at how little time something takes. No, that's a really good point. Yeah, there are certain tasks like unloading the dishwasher that it's there it is. It's just part of our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, and they get into this loop of, well, if they go to the other side, oh, it's only 4 minutes, I can do it tomorrow morning. And then all of a sudden you've got this crunch of 4-minute things that takes all day long.
Right.
So that's the other side of it.
That's one strategy that I love and that people constantly say is helpful is the 1-minute rule, which is anything you can do in less than a minute, you do without delay. So maybe you can't unload the dishwasher, but you can hang up your coat. You can put a couple of junk catalogs in the recycling. And these little tasks kind of just weigh us down, because you walk in and nothing takes much time, but you're like, oh gosh, to dig my way out of this feels insurmountable. But if you just do it as you go, then you don't have to take an afternoon or a weekend to deal with it. You just do it. And what people report is that very quickly there's sort of like a level of clarity that emerges, which is kind of surprising that you could do it in such little investment of time and energy.
Yeah, definitely. And that kind of leads into, sorry, my cat is trying to climb on my computer. Just decision-making skill. That I try to remind my clients that if they don't make a decision on something, they've actually made a decision to keep it. So what did you learn about that with people?
Well, and that's the thing is what is sort of your heuristic for deciding how to think about something. So like Marie Kondo very famously has spark joy. I myself did not find that a very helpful question. A lot of people clearly found it extremely useful. For me, the more helpful question is, do I love it? Do I use it? Do I need it? So sometimes I love something that I don't really need or use, like my mother gave me these gorgeous vintage paper hats. And I've never figured out anything to do with them, but I just love them. They're beautiful. I leave them in a bag. Every once in a while I look at them. I'm like, oh, I love those things. I feel like there's room in my heart, in my home for those, within reason. And then there's the stuff you use, like, oh, I use this pen. It's not my favorite pen, but it serves its little job well, and so fine.
Yeah.
And then there's things that you need because, sometimes there's things that you don't really use them that often, but like long underwear. You might not need long underwear very often, but every once in a while, you could really use that long underwear. And so I'm like, I'll keep that if I have used it and I see how I would use it. But then everything else, if you don't need it, use it, or love it, why do you have it? Like, that rice cooker where you're like, oh, I'm never going to use that rice cooker again. But it was it's really good quality. I spent a lot of money on it. I thought we would use it, but we didn't use it. I'm like, okay, let's be honest here. That rice cooker needs to go out the door.
Yes. Yeah. We all have things like sponges and tax returns that are not going to spark joy in anybody, but you really do have to have them.
You really do. Yeah.
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 But the decision making, I feel like people just can get paralyzed by that. I guess, again, because they think it'll take a long time, or they want to, a lot of people are very expansive thinkers. So they want to consider all the possibilities. And I tell them, you've got all these lovely possibilities on the horizon, but if you don't choose one, you don't have any of them.
Right. Right. Well, do you think that that's one of the things that you help with? Is I think sometimes just the presence of another person, even if that person isn't
Yes.
even saying anything, I think that just the idea, I'm just quietly waiting here while you decide what to do with it. It kind of
Yeah.
forces them to do it, and I think it kind of gets them in the mode of like, okay, I got to move forward. I can't just wander into the other room and start watching television. I have to stay focused. Somebody's here to help me with this task. And I'm surprised by how often I just kind of sit there, or I like hold the trash bag open, or I'm like, do you want me to go get the packing tape? And they're the ones doing the decisions and going through the process. They're not even really expressing it. But I think that if I weren't there, they wouldn't be able to do it in the same way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to ask them objectifying questions so that they can stand back where I'm standing and see
Yeah.
the space and not be so in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of times I feel like I'm just holding space for this thing to happen.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
like an appointment with myself. And have you experienced this? This occurred to me after I had written the book, which always happens to me. It's very maddening. Like the minute you finish a book, you have some great idea. But one of the things I noticed was that, especially for people for whom an object is very important for emotional reasons or because it's attached to the memory of an important person or event, that they almost needed me to be a witness. They needed to say, this was really important. This was very precious to my grandfather.
Yeah.
And or like, I had so much fun wearing this dress. I have so many happy memories of it. And you just need to be like, wow, you really had a wonderful time wearing that dress. That, like, at that time in your life, that was like the magical dress. And they're like, yeah. And you can say, well, do you want to take a picture of it? Or, and then a lot of times they're like, they've made their peace with it, but they need to kind of articulate it and have you acknowledge, like, yes, this is valuable. We're going to acknowledge that why this was significant to you, but now you can let it go. But they kind of need somebody to hear them say that, because otherwise they feel like, well, I have to keep this thing, or it will somehow be forgotten or unacknowledged or almost like disrespected.
Yes.
You need to show respect for the thing and all the feelings that are attached to it.
Yes. And, in our culture, I think it can be rare to be deeply listened to, which is another thing I do for people. I am really there. I am totally present and I'm listening. And it's such a gift to them to do that. And that's when those things come out, those stories that hadn't been verbalized before. Yeah.
Yes. I think even sometimes for people themselves, they don't understand why something's important. And understanding why it's important sometimes allows you to, I don't know about you, but something that's very painful for people is like, these are clothes that don't fit anymore.
Yeah.
So if I get rid of these clothes, am I saying they'll never fit? Am I saying that my youth is gone? Like, what does that mean? And they haven't really articulated it all the way through, but there's a lot kind of wrapped up in that. That's hard for people to talk about.
It is. I have a long-term client that I'm doing that with. She's been retired for several years now, and she has lots of gorgeous outfits that are for going out on the town, which she just doesn't do, but they're beautiful. They really are. So for her, it's been a long emotional journey, and we're still on, of her realizing, actually, this is what I wear.
Yeah. That's hard. I mean, on the one hand, there's sort of the fantasy self, and it's all the things like, I am going to learn how to play the guitar, and I'm totally going to learn how to cook Chinese food, and, all that stuff. And then there's like, this is who I was. I was a mother of toddlers, and we had all these cute Fisher-Price toys. And, I used to wear slinky sundresses all the time, or I used to wear Prada business suits, and I would go to conferences and
Yes.
And it's hard to say, well, that's just not me anymore, or it never was me,
Right. And if that's not true, then who exactly am I? Which is a scary question. Yeah.
But that's why it's so exciting to clear the clutter, because then it becomes clear, so much clearer to you and to the people in it. It's like, oh, this is who you are. I get it. You love France. You love Maine. You love tango dancing, whatever it is.
Yes.
All that the 1,000-piece puzzle, that has gone out the door. You are not the person who's going to complete a 1,000-piece puzzle, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are some of the most intriguing things that you discovered during your research for this?
Well, one thing I discovered was that often people, again, when I would voice myself off on my friends, they would be like, yes, I really want to get organized. And I would be like, no, don't start there. Big mistake. Because it's often the people with the worst clutter problems who are very excited about the prospect of running to IKEA or the Container Store, whatever, and getting like bizarre hangers and elaborate container sets. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, no, I'm like, let's get rid of everything that you don't need, use, or love. And then maybe you won't need to organize it. I had, my sister is super messy. I have the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast, and she's
Yeah.
my co-host, and she's very messy. We talk about it a lot. And there was one time where she was going to move, and she just couldn't do it by herself. So I went from New York to California to help her. And she had all these papers, all these statements from the WGA, because she's a member of the Writers Union. And she was like, okay, I'm going to get a 3-hole punch and then a series of notebooks, and then I'm going to organize them chronologically. And then, maybe, I don't know, do you think I need like tabs? And I was like, do you need these at all? Do you ever use them? I'm like, when do you use them? They're just statements. She's like, I don't really use them. And I'm like, if you needed them, would you just call the union and they could just like send you whatever you needed? You probably have an online account that you just have never accessed. And she's like, yeah, I don't know why I would need these actually. And I'm like, well, then let's just get rid of them. We don't need to organize them. Let's just why have you been keeping them all these years? She had like just thousands of them just littering the floor. She did move a bag. This is a true story. She moved a bag of unopened mail from New York to Los Angeles, and from one place in Los Angeles to another place before she opened it.
Oh boy. Yeah. That's sad.
She's gotten a lot better. She has learned she's gotten a lot better.
I have encountered this mania for binders with other clients too. For some reason, the 3-hole punching and putting things in a binder, they just love it. Yeah.
I think it is kind of that like putting things in their slot. I think it's related. I mean, and this is just in my mind, like to people who really want to keep magazines, where that are like, ooh, I have a collection of Architectural Digest going back 5 years, or my National Geographic. They never look at them. They don't refer to. I mean, some people like make collages, or their children do art projects, or they would really look back for ideas. I mean, but a lot of people, they just keep them, and they're sort of a pleasure in the set. And I'm like, well, if you really take tremendous pleasure in the set, then okay, fine. But there's just something about, I know exactly where to put that thing. I'll put it there. When you're like, why aren't you like getting rid of it altogether?
Yes. I had clients once who said, I really wish that everything could be like the silverware tray. There's a fork-shaped spot for the forks, a spoon-shaped spot for the spoon, a knife-shaped spot. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think it is it's like Julia Child and her where every skillet and everything was outlined on her board. There is that pleasure. And that's one of the things, speaking of kind of surprising or counterintuitive things, one thing I really noticed in myself, and this is true for a lot of people, is that it's much easier to put things away consistently. And it's actually also much more fun when everything does have a specific place. When there is the spoon, I totally get the spoon-shaped thing. So like in our house, it's like, where are the batteries? The batteries are in the basket on the far left of the second shelf from the bottom in the pantry. And I like just going right there. Where are the 75-watt light bulbs? They're here. Where is the hammer? And it's like, I like everything having an exact place. Some people I've noticed kind of just put things down. Okay, here's my international electricity converters. I will put them here on this shelf. No particular reason why. But I'm like, I like having everything. Where does the heating pad go? Oh, right here. And I think you can tap into the pleasure of that as a way to see why orderliness is pleasant, because there is kind of like almost like dollhouse or tool shed satisfaction of putting things away exactly.
Yeah. I do think for some of the binder lovers, they are kind of verging on perfectionism though. So unless they can get the perfect binder and the tabs, they won't put them away at all.
Well, and that's fake work and make work too, which is when people are like, I'm going to alphabetize my spices. And you're like, I don't see why that is going to add value to your life. No, I think that's true. And then it's kind of like tunnel vision too. Like, well, nothing can be done until we get the binder situation worked out. And you're like, yeah.
Meanwhile, the piles are coming up here behind you. Yes.
Yes. Well, another funny thing, and I wonder if you've encountered this, is when people, it's like our own clutter. It's like when we make annoying noises. It's not annoying to us, but other people are annoyed. Your own clutter is, you're like, well, yeah, I've got that needlepoint pillow that's been out for 2 months, but like, I'm totally going to finish that thing. So that's not clutter. But you leave one spoon on the kitchen counter, and I feel like, oh my gosh, like what kind of barbarian are you? And so it's funny how often people will point to someone else as being very Like I will often be in a place where somebody's like, I'm the neat one. That's the tidy, they're the messy one. And I'm looking around and I'm like, and in what sense would you say that you are neat? Because I am not picking up the neatness so much. But your own stuff doesn't feel as cluttery as other people's stuff.
Yeah, but I have worked with couples a few times, and sometimes that actually is true. And you need to kind of get them to come to a middle zone where one person's going to put up with some clutter and the other person is going to maybe figure out a way to not exactly put the other partner's stuff away, but at least put it in a drawer. Okay, honey, if you're looking for this thing, it's in that drawer.
Yeah,
I didn't put it where it belongs, but
yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, don't you think it's a major source of conflict among couples? I mean, I have to say, like my husband and I are very similarly matched, and I didn't realize how rare and fortunate that was, because I think it's very, very common for people to just have different levels at which they feel comfortable, and it can be a real irritant.
Yes. I mean, it definitely works best if the cluttery person will allow the other partner to tidy up.
Yes. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That is the thing. It's like, it's not even like, does the tidy person want to do the work? It's like, are they allowed to do the work?
Yes. Yeah.
But one person's like maniacal neatness is another person's normal orderliness.
Yes. Yeah. Right. All right. I think we only have a few minutes left. If there's anything else fabulous you want to share with me about the book, especially how people can find it.
Yes. So you can buy the book anywhere books are sold. If you go to my website, GretchenRubin.com, there's all kinds of resources and discussion guides and manifestos and one-pagers, all kinds of things there. If you want to read an excerpt of the book to decide if it's something that you'd be interested in, you can read an excerpt. If you want to listen to an excerpt of the audiobook, I recorded the audiobook, so you can listen to that. I was very pleased when I got the day after I recorded the audiobook, my director emailed me before and after pictures, because after I left the studio, she spent several hours cleaning out the studio. So I was like, that's a good sign. And I'm on social media as Gretchen Rubin, and I do have a podcast called Happier with Gretchen Rubin, which is all about how to be happier. And I love to connect with readers and viewers and listeners. So anyone who has questions or insights or thoughts or suggestions, I love to connect with people.
Cool. I know that you have a kind of an ongoing group for the 4 Tendencies book.
Yes.
Are you planning that for this book as well?
Well, the Better app now, so the Better app is a free app that anybody can join. It's betterapp.us, or if you're on desktop, or you can just search for Better Gretchen Rubin if you're in the App Store. And it started as the 4 Tendencies, but as the community has grown, it's sort of become anything related to happiness, good habits, human nature. There's a lot of talk about clutter there, and a lot of talk about habits and accountability. That's a big thing in the community.
Yeah.
So it's basically anything anybody's interested in talking about and sharing. I think we can learn a lot from each other. What works for other people sometimes somebody gives you an idea and you're like, oh my gosh, I could totally do that.
Yeah. And get validation for whatever weird way you do something.
Exactly. Sometimes people are like, oh, I'm the only person who can't use a to-do list. And they're like, no, a lot of people can't use a to-do list. So what can you guys use instead? And it turns out they got a lot of great ideas.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure your book will do fabulously.
Oh, well, thank you. It's so much fun to talk about one of my favorite subjects.
Yes. Mine too, obviously.
Yes, obviously. Good. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Claire Tompkins, the Clutter Coach. If you like the show, I'd love it if you'd leave a rating and review in iTunes. You can subscribe, too, so the podcast will be ready and waiting for you to listen to it. The show is available on SoundCloud and Stitcher as well. And you'll find the show notes on my blog at www.cluttercoach.net. And again, please come visit me on livecoach.io and get that gift certificate while the offer lasts. LiveCoach offers a money-back guarantee after your first month, so there's no risk. See you next time.